Hey, everybody. We are back. So excited to be here today. Guys, we have a really awesome guest. I know you probably heard this in the intro already, but this guy's coming at us clear from Israel. He decided to stay up late tonight, work later, just to give you guys this awesome experience. So hats off to him. So this is Daniel Alfin. And is that how you pronounce your last name? Is it Alfon or Alfin?
Both work for me. Thank you, Josh.
Okay. So I'm not saying it like a gringo. I'm so bad at pronouncing last names, if I'm being honest with you. My audience knows this. I'm constantly struggling with the last names. The hardest one for me, though, was Mershazadeh. That one took me about 50 attempts to get that one.
Wow.
Great episode, though, guys. Go check that one out. It's like episode 60. It's clear back there. But, guys, very excited to have Daniel on here today with us. Daniel is a LinkedIn expert. He's written the book on it, okay, on leveraging your profile, leveraging your LinkedIn to actually generate organic sales for your company. And most of you probably know this because I talk about this a lot, but this is actually one of our core strategies for scaling our company is using LinkedIn. And so, we do LinkedIn outreach. We spend a lot of time messaging people and having great conversations, pulling them into our world. So I wanted to bring in Daniel because he's an expert in this, and I wanted to hear kind of where he's at and how he does what he does. So first off, Daniel, I'm going to ask you more of a, I don't know if psychological is the right word, but psychographic question for you, which is, what was that moment for you when you realized, I'm the LinkedIn god, man. I'm good at this, and I should make a business on this. When was that moment for you?
If we skip the God part, then it was 2006.
Awesome.
I look at my wife and I say she's divine, but I can't say that about me. So back then I was carrying a quota and I was a salesperson, and LinkedIn simply helped me slash my sales cycle by seeing the name of the person I needed to reach out to within the organization. And then it helped me beat my quota, and I started helping friends. And probably 2-3 years later, 2006, 7, I was doing 90% of my business was related to LinkedIn. And that was the moment I decided to drop everything else and to specialize.
That's amazing. It's funny. Every person I talk to, they're never in the industry they thought they would be in, but that's the one that they were successful in. Right? I'm the same way. I never thought I'd be the podcasting guy ever. I started a podcast and I was not the first in the game. I was not hyper successful at it until all of a sudden I was, and people were like, how'd you do it? And it became my thing. Right. So Daniel, I'm excited about this in particular because most people, when they approach lead generation, the first thing that their minds do is say, I need to go run ads. And a lot of people right now, so this is being recorded in 2023. In 2023, a lot of people are saying, I'm going to start running ads on LinkedIn because the targeting's so much better. But you mentioned something before we started I thought was so interesting, is you said, you don't actually believe that they should run ads until they have a good organic strategy on LinkedIn. Is that correct?
Yes, you nailed it. I think advertising and paid advertising makes sense only after you explored and leverage the organic LinkedIn machine. And it's a very powerful machine, as you know. It's close to 1 billion members. And since we started this conversation, hundreds of people sign up. Every second, 3 people sign up.
Wow.
So basically starting with advertising is like being admitted to American Idol and say, no, I don't want to go on stage. Let me run the ad. That doesn't make sense.
That's awesome. So let's walk through like the anatomy of a really solid organic strategy, because you mentioned like building your profile. Is messaging part of your strategy? Kind of walk us through a solid organic strategy.
Excellent. So the 3 steps I would say is first, build your LinkedIn presence. And that would be first your individual profile and then your page, your company page, if you'd like. And you ask yourself, who's my ideal reader on LinkedIn? For entrepreneurs or for successful podcasters, it would be business leaders or prospects. The second question is, if we could make those people visit your profile, Josh, what action would you like them to perform once they visit your profile? And lastly, are we making it as seamless and easy for them to understand why they need to get to that page or watch that video or go and sign up for your mastermind that will help them monetize their podcast? Who's your ideal reader? What action would you like them to perform? And are you making it as easy as possible for them to do?
Yeah, that's amazing. And my curiosity with this is, I'm pulling up your website here as we're talking. you talk about basically what you just described is a landing page. Like that's what your LinkedIn page is. Yes.
You got it, because conversion is likelier to happen on your website than on LinkedIn. If I go to pantheonmastermind.com, then there you have a system. And as much as I love LinkedIn, LinkedIn is just a tool. So think about, if you're an entrepreneur and you're a fifth generation entrepreneur, then you should consider LinkedIn as an extension of your website that needs to convert your ideal reader, and not a repository for your CV, because no podcaster cares about the exact year you started Versi Marketing. They want to know that you can help them. And by looking and visiting your profile, they see it from the word go. They see the banner, they see the headline, and they see the featured elements. All those are free to use. It takes a couple of minutes. Just look at your profile and see if that converts. If you were your ideal prospect, would you convert?
Right.
And if you say, no, I wouldn't, then it's time to go and start building a customer-centric and a customer-ready presence on LinkedIn. That was stage number 1. Stage number 2 is your connection strategy. And stage number 3 would be your lead generation.
Right. Well, so, it's funny, as we're even having this discussion, I was like, pantheonmastermind.com. That's like our old website. It's amazing. Like, I probably need to update my LinkedIn. I'm going to make a note of that. Go update that link.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I appreciate you mentioning it. It's good. I like being humiliated on camera. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. So okay, this is great, because you're starting with the profile. And so what I'm hearing from you is it's about attracting, like helping them see kind of your story. It's painting the story of you. But then at what point are you like reaching out to them? Like, how are you getting them to come to the page? Is it simply by having a good page, or is it a content strategy? Is it an outreach strategy? Is it ads? What do you recommend?
Okay, so the simple hack would be to visit people's profile being public. In other words, if your ideal reader is a podcaster who wants to grow their podcast and monetize it in a good way, and that's a specialty of yours, then simply visiting 10 or 15 successful podcasters' profiles on LinkedIn and being public, you would have a high viewback rate. Many of them will check you out because, not you, but most people are very curious to see who visited them on LinkedIn. And there would be one click away from going to your LinkedIn profile, and there you can show them the way to your mastermind, or to joshav.com, or to any program you'd like them to have a look at.
Yeah.
So,
awesome.
So visiting profiles is one simple way to do it. And if you connect with people you know well, then one of the hidden strategy or strategy that is less used is simply to run an advanced search and to identify one ideal customer or ideal prospect of yours, and then leaving the LinkedIn platform, communicating with your shared mutual connections. So you would focus on secondary contacts, and you would ask that person, can you introduce me to my ideal prospect? Say I wanted to be introduced to Tyler Tapp, and I would see that you're our mutual connection. And I would ask you, can you introduce me to your brother? And if you say yes, then the conversation would take place outside of LinkedIn, and I would get your brother's attention, not thanks to my name, because it's meaningless. It would be thanks to your name. Right.
That's awesome. And so, I mean, this is honestly a great, what I would consider a hunting strategy, right? Where you can, I'm just going to repeat back to what I'm hearing. So it's visiting people's profiles, because it kind of cues them that you visited their profile, and then that kind of brings them back to yours. You said, like, do an event search, you're finding people who are a good fit, and then you're saying, hey, who are the people that that you're mutually connected with, and you ask them for an introduction. Yes?
Yes, sir.
See, that's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, it's funny. We've actually never even used that strategy. I mean, ours is just simple. Like, we use LinkedIn Sales Navigator and we outreach directly.
Okay. So let's say this. Some of our listeners have 15,000 followers like you have, but most of them don't have that. Right. So if your tribe is small, if you have a few hundred connections or 1,000, 2,000, then it doesn't make sense. Content alone will not drive enough traffic to your profile.
Right.
However, the more connections you have, the more it makes sense to focus on the content I found to work best is top of the funnel, evergreen content that your ideal prospect is worried about. And it wouldn't be salesy, it would be educational. So why should I start a podcast? Or how do I monetize my podcast? Or how do I find the right guest? Or now that I started my podcast, I see that it takes me too much time. How do I scale it? If you could tap into their mind and identify, and you can do it in your sleep, identify the questions that they struggle with simply by showing them that you know you've been there and you can help and guide them. You would start by providing value. And once they get value from Josh, they would move from step A to step B. And they would ask you, what would be the next step, Josh? So you don't have to sell, they want to buy.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it's funny. I'm hearing you and going, that's happened to us a lot of times where people will reach out. I'm like, oh, maybe it's because of that. I mean, they're reaching out to us because they're like, I've been watching your stuff. I've seen your content. I've been deep diving your profile. You know what I love about this though? You're not going to get kicked off LinkedIn for like visiting people's profiles too often. I mean, you can be sitting there. If you're bored, you're like sitting on the toilet for crying out loud. You could just be like visiting people's profiles, right? It's brilliant. I love it. So I want to ask you this question because I get this a lot. What's your take on automations? So automating the outreach or using Sales Navigator to generate lists and then, having a system that you use to begin conversations. Like what's your belief on those?
Again, if we focus on entrepreneurs that use LinkedIn organically, then I would advise them not to use any automation at all, simply because LinkedIn will crack down on those automations and they might either close or restrict your account or completely ban you from the LinkedIn platform. So it comes with a price, and it's not really good for your brand, because if you're sending 10,000 messages and very few people get back to you, then your brand is not associated with the value you would like people to think about it. The fact that it's possible doesn't make it a good strategy for all people.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would believe that as well, because I've seen a lot of people will chase that that perfect automation, and they're trying to game the system. Our big thing is, our LinkedIn outreach strategy is to basically pull lists of people through Sales Navigator, which that's a paid service. You pay to get these lists of the dream client. We get that list, and we just build a genuine message to that person saying, hey, saw this content you're doing. Saw you don't have a podcast. Have you thought about starting one? Right. It's such an easy in because we're being it's basically scripted, but it allows us to actually build value around it. We've never been blocked on LinkedIn using that strategy, even though it's basically scripted, but it gives us an opportunity to be human as well, because it seems like they reward that.
Yes. And even if the LinkedIn algorithm doesn't reward that, then the human reader does reward it. So basically, if by receiving your message, I can read it and say, hey, Josh has thought about us for a second, has actually read my profile, it makes you stand out from 99% of LinkedIn users or LinkedIn automation. Right.
That's amazing. Well, so out of curiosity on this, with you, where do you like to, because I mean, you've had a lot of clients that you've worked with on LinkedIn and helped them build profiles and generate leads through it. Where do you recommend they start as far as finding the lists? Because you talked about identifying that person who, like the dream client, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, the avatar. There's like 5,000 different names for it, your ICP. How are you helping them identify these lists of people and finding gathering areas on LinkedIn? Like, how are you finding them?
If you have a good image of your ideal prospect, then referrals could become a very significant source of revenue, because referrals are warmer, they come almost pre-sold, and if someone recommends you after they've worked with you, then they tend to be a lot less price sensitive, they can stay with you longer, and they can end up by referring other clients your way. So asking for referrals is difficult for some entrepreneurs, I was listening to an episode released with Greg Stevens, and I wanted to quote to quote your conversation, if I may.
Yeah, please do.
He said, it's going to be uncomfortable, but you get to choose for how long. It can be 20 minutes or it could be 2 months. So asking for that referral or that recommendation can be awkward for 5 minutes. But if 30% of your revenues came through referrals, then you would be able to help those people and to grow your business in an organic way. And referrals is the single most important strategy that many entrepreneurs overlook.
Yeah.
It's not the only one, but it should be one of the first ones you play with. If you don't have a lot of resources, if you don't have a lot of content, this could work for even bootstrapping entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Gosh, that's amazing. It's funny. I even just hearing you say that back from the interview, just reminding me like, wow, that is such an important thing to think about, of 5 minutes of it's 30 seconds of discomfort for really building something solid. I know with our company, we've been able to generate millions through referrals. Literally. I mean, people are so willing to give when you're providing real value, and they know that you can I know I can send somebody to Daniel. I wouldn't have him on the show if I didn't think I could. I could send somebody to you, and I know confidently they're going to be taken care of. Right. And I'm going to give my solid pitch here for everybody. This is my shameless plug for Daniel. Go check out danielalfon.com, ALFON. That's where you can go hire him. Right. Amazing guy. So anyways, back to the show here. But what I can tell you guys is that even for myself, knowing that I can refer to him also makes me look better as the referrer because I know they're going to get such a great result with Daniel that they'll come back and buy my service because like, wow, Daniel did amazing at your referral. What do you do? Who else could you refer me to? Right. Really awesome. I love this. This plays right into our strategy. And I'm sitting here going, I had to go back to my LinkedIn strategy. It's been way too long. I miss LinkedIn.
LinkedIn misses you.
Yeah, that's probably true. We helped them a lot, get a lot of exposure at the beginning. Do you know Josh Steinley by chance, Daniel?
I know of him. Yes, so I've started following Josh maybe 3-4 years ago about being an author and using LinkedIn. I think that was the angle I remember.
Yeah. Well, he was one of our first guests on this show actually back in 2019 is when we started this one. Anyways, he was one of the guys that kind of kicked me on. It's like I was already using LinkedIn, but he helped me realize like how he kicked me onto the concept of articles. And I'm kind of curious, how do articles play a pretty key role in your strategy? Like actually building thought leadership content that way, or is that unnecessary?
Excellent. So if thought leadership is important for you, if you run an agency or if you're a coach, then thought leadership should be part of your long-term objectives. And where would you find a better place in the world's best and most important business community? And if you think about your content strategy, then the way you could use articles is to build or strengthen your thought leadership. In other words, not a time-sensitive webinar you run tomorrow morning, but something that would analyze trends. For example, you could, going back to the podcasters who want to run a successful or monetized podcast, some of the content may change. Perhaps the technical gear could change. But the strategic questions would remain true in 6 months' time. And when you think about the articles you can write, then think about them as long-term, timeless, evergreen content that would make people understand why they need to go to joshapp.com and jump on a call with you.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's so interesting. P.S. My wife keeps making fun of me because I say that's amazing so often on this show. So shout out to Kinsey for making me feel awkward on my podcast. But everybody interviews awesome and everything they say is awesome. She's blushing right now because I know she's listening to it. Love you, babe. So, Daniel, This is fantastic. And I hope people will look at this and go, okay, this is a strategy that I could employ. Very, very interesting strategy. But I want to just give one final shout out. Say everybody go check out danielalfon.com, ALFON. Go hire this guy. He's got a really awesome masterclass that he does. It's very cost effective. First off, a great way for you to get into this. Even if you're one of the people out there who says, I don't have a lot of cash to put at something, this is one of the first places I would put cash is in something like this, because an organic strategy is the foundation for all paid and other strategies that you do. And truthfully, I am an avid believer that LinkedIn is one of the easiest places to become a thought leader, because people actively search for you on there. They seek thought leadership on LinkedIn. So Daniel, I want to ask you one final question to kind of wrap this up. Can you give our audience one solid tactic they can go use today, take a few minutes of their time to become more successful on LinkedIn, to either A, generate more leads, or B, to generate more reach with their content?
Excellent. So the tactic I would recommend is this. Ask someone to look you up on LinkedIn, ideally someone you're not connected with on LinkedIn, and then ask them what they would do when they visit your own profile. And Josh, in some cases, you would be amazed to see what people do, because you crafted your profile in a certain way and you're sure that people are going to click here, but you see that that person doesn't click there. They tap, they scroll, they do something else, or they stop and ask, hey, when you say this, what do you mean by that? And it's very tempting to answer their question. But if that person could be a prospect of yours, then you need to get back to the drawing board and say, how can I streamline my profile so it's clear for everyone to understand how I'm part of the solution? And this could be a simple free strategy to pick 10 minutes for someone's brain and not to guide them. Not to say, if you click here, then you would check my mastermind. Just look at them. And if it's a Zoom call, ask them to share the screen, or if they use the app, try to stream the app itself and see what action they perform. And for example, if they click on your contact info and you notice that one of the link there is not the ideal link you'd like them to go to, then you thank that person, you go back to your LinkedIn profile and you rebuild it or update it so it makes sense for your future customer. There was a reason it was there, but every now and then it makes sense for you to look at it and say, is this serving me properly for the next 6 months?